Welcome back. The film Kashmir Files, since its release on the 11th of March, has dominated minds and hearts of those who have watched it. It's also invoked feelings of jitters among a section of people in India who have vehemently maintained that this film is so far from the truth that it should be banned. There were some in mainstream political parties who said this film divides this country's Hindu and Muslim communities, even said that it was a one-sided narrative that aims to only further Islamophobia in a secular country like ours. The latest entrant in that list of politicians is Sharad Pawar. The NCP chief said that such a film shouldn't even have been cleared for screening. He accused the BJP of promoting a film that spreads poisonous atmosphere and slammed them for encouraging people to watch a film that stokes anger. In fact, he was also backed up by Mehbooba Mufti, who similarly said that the only attempt is to victimize Muslims and then create this paranoia that Hindu khatre mein hai. But here's the thing, that while Kashmir Files was being slammed as Islamophobic in India, Muslim majority countries or countries with a large Muslim population, countries like the UAE and Indonesia, have given a censor board clearance to the film without a single cut. In Singapore, after weeks of scrutiny, the film has been given an all clear. In fact, they've said that there is nothing objectionable in Kashmir Files. The question is then, that is bigotry only in the eyes of the beholder. All right, let me take that across to our panel. Shazia Elmi, national spokesperson of BJP, Akib Renzu Shah, JNK youth leader, Vivek Shrivastava, political analyst, Ahmad Ayaz, lawyer. And my first question is to Javed Beg, columnist. How is it, Javed Beg, that UAE is okay with Kashmir Files? 15 plus, you can watch it, not a single cut, is going to release in theatres. But in India, we are still calling it Islamophobic.
It's very unfortunate. A political leader like Pawar Sahab, is without understanding or knowing what has happened during 90s, he has come and issued a statement. His statement is a propaganda, not based on facts. If somebody like Vivek Agnihotri has come up with an innovative and creative idea to show whatever happened during 90s with our Kashmiri Pandit Baradari to whole world, there is nothing wrong. My generation wanted to know, and there are very few people who read books nowadays. So this innovative, modern way of telling whatever happened during 90s has to be appreciated. I must remind Pawar Sahab, it was Maharashtra government and Bala Sahab Thackeray, who helped Kashmiri Pandits, gave admissions to many Kashmiri Pandit students during 90s. He was the first leader of our country who stood for Kashmiri Pandits. So Pawar Sahab should have cross-checked with the history and the facts. There is no propaganda in this movie. It is a fact. It was long due. Kashmiri Muslims wanted to know, my generation of Kashmiri Muslims, we wanted to know whatever happened. There is a section of society, even in Kashmir, they are, scared of this movie. They are scared of the facts. They are scared
of facts, Vivek Shrivastava. Mr. Sharad Pawar says that the film is, and I quote, those responsible for keeping the country united are encouraging people to watch the film that stokes anger amongst people. Why? Why is it Islamophobic in India when in UAE there is no problem?
And I agree with what he has said.
There is no anger in UAE, there is no anger in Singapore.
UAE, the Muslims
only in India everyone is angry.
Yes, let me speak. Yes, I'll tell you. Yeah, because wahan pe the Muslims are not in a minority. In UAE, the Muslims are in a majority, and there is no Hindu versus Muslim politics over there. You don't have a party like BJP in UAE, which is saying we'll make a Hindu Rashtra, and the Muslims will be second-rate citizens. So that is why in UAE it doesn't bother the people.
Okay,
whereas
so they are
in
like,
India,
we will see Islamophobic things, and which will make us happy, but it's fine.
Pandits.
We'll get angry, we'll watch Islamophobic content, but we are in a majority, so we are fine.
Nobody, it's not angry. This movie is not this movie is not showing the entire content. It is a biased, one-sided movie. More Kashmiri Muslims were killed by the terrorists. That should also be shown.
Tell me
so many Kashmiri Muslims helped their Kashmiri Pandit brothers.
When an Islamic country sees nothing
that
wrong
has not been shown. Okay, it is Islamophobic because I am telling you how it is. I told you, Muslims are not in threat in UAE, but non-Kashmiri Muslims will be targeted across the nation by the BJP and the Bajrang Dal goons, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad goons, by saying, इन लोगों ने कश्मीर में पंडितों को मारा, हम इनको यहाँ पे अगर ये बढ़ेंगे तादाद में, population में, they are going to do the same thing here. They are going to do this in Gujarat, they will do this in UP, they will do this in Bihar. So non-Kashmiri Muslims will be targeted by showing this as a classic case where Muslims always target the
Hindus are okay in Islamic countries because their Muslims are in majority, Shazia Almi. But Islamophobic movies are not okay in countries
that is not your country and that is not your problem.
The problem is not Islamophobia. The problem is
this is our country. It is our problem. So UAE is not bothered.
Okay, but UAE just generally likes to see Islamophobic
हमारे देश की problem है. UAE की नहीं है. They are not bothered.
Achha, they are
they are not interested. It is not Islamophobic. I mean, they are not in threat. BJP is not going to go to Dubai and start massacring the Muslims there.
Maybe they will have like a special theater dedicated only to Islamophobc content around the world.
No. It's not bothered. You are diverting.
Let's have an
It is the Indian Muslim who is going to be under threat.
Because we are in majority.
No, it is the Indian Muslim who is in threat.
Right.
What are you talking?
मतलब
हमारे देश की समस्या हम अमेरिका में डिस्कस करेंगे क्या? अमेरिका का मुस्लिम खड़ा होगा क्या? Does it make sense?
Because you are giving a ridiculous comment and I am giving you an equally ridiculous logic to that.
You are ridiculous. You are absolutely ridiculous.
Your logic
How
is
can another country be responsible for what is going on in my country?
I'm just trying to see whether anyone is capable of matching it.
You're
seriously saying that a
Indian Muslim is going to be under threat, so obviously Indian Muslims are bothered.
With an Islamophobic movie because
why
we are
should
in
American
majority.
Muslims be bothered? Why should Singapore Muslims be bothered?
Okay.
No, first.
अरे भैया यहाँ के मुसलमानों को खतरा है, वहाँ के मुसलमानों को खतरा नहीं है. So the danger is here.
Okay. Shazia Almi, आपको खतरा है, आपको प्रॉब्लम है कश्मीर फाइल्स से, इस्लामोफोबिक कश्मीर फाइल्स से. शाजिया अलमी
नहीं ये तो सब बीजेपी के एजेंट है. इन्हें
शाजिया अलमी, the beauty is Shazia Almi may be a Muslim, but she has no right to comment on a movie being Islamophobic. But Vivek Srivastava gets to comment. Because she's in the BJP, she can't comment on movie being Islamophobic. Vivek Srivastava is an expert.
मुझे लगता है आप मैं तो भाजपा की एजेंट क्या हूँ, मैं तो भाजपा की प्रवक्ता हूँ. सुनिए, पर मुझे लगता है आप जो है चाइना के एजेंट है और भारत के खिलाफ जो है आप एंटी भारत.
चाइना कहाँ से आ गया?
और मुझे लगता है
I'm talking about Indian Muslims. Where is China?
मुझे तकलीफ है.
I'm talking about non-Kashmiri Indian Muslims. They will be targeted. Where is China?
नहीं, अब आप चुप रहिए, मुझे बोलने
मैं क्यों चुप रहा हूँ? आप मुझे चाइना भेज रही हैं, बताइए आपके पास शब्द नहीं है. इंडियन मुस्लिम को टारगेट किया जाएगा ना?
नहीं, आपने मुझे कहा आप एजेंट है, तो मैंने आपको भी बता दिया. इट्स योर वर्ड अगेंस्ट माइन, माय डियर फ्रेंड, दैट्स ऑल. Okay, so now
नहीं आप बीजेपी में हैं, मैं चाइना में नहीं हूँ.
So now the problem is that the problem is he just said he's just contradicted himself. And why he escaped to allow me to speak, because I will pick out each of the contradictions. Now he said many more Muslims were killed because many more Muslims are there in numbers. If you see the percentages, you realize that an entire community was wiped out.
No, absolutely not. Many more Muslims, innocent Kashmiri Muslims were killed by the jihadis. Which has not been shown in this movie.
I can't talk like this.
Okay, please don't keep heckling her.
I'm not getting a chance. I'm shouting in my ear.
Finish. Shazia Almi, go on.
हाँ बोलिए. Okay.
So this was not an exodus, because exodus happens when people want to do palayan. They did not want to. So this was not exodus. So it has been called exodus for many years. One. And yeah, we lost many of our Muslim brothers and Hindu brothers, but in terms of percentages, we know where that truth is. And also, who killed the Muslim brothers and why? Who are these people? Again, we have to shine the truth on that reality. And that is a truth that our friend here and the entire lobby wants to run away from. And this is the truth that the film is talking about. It is not talking about Hindus and Muslims. It is talking about targeted carnage and specific killings. Not just of a Kashmiri Hindu brethren, but of a culture of violence that sees religion as a basis of division and identity. And which is why our Kashmiri Muslim brothers who were in the army and paramilitary forces have been killed.
Yes.
And this is exactly why the Pakistan-sponsored terrorism has to be exposed to everybody.
It's so important you mention that people who talk about Islamophobia, Shazia Ilmi, will have their lips sewn when a Muslim special police officer or a Muslim army man is killed by the same Pak-sponsored terrorists. And today the Kashmir police, in fact, has said that these are also Kashmir files, which people should be watching. And हम देखेंगे कि आप कब तक चुप रहोगे about these Kashmiris who are being killed. Nobody will speak about that. But it's not about Islamophobia. It's about facts, Ahmad Ayaz, that need to be silenced. Which is why UAE is okay. But Mehbooba Mufti is saying कि हिंदू खतरे में है का हवा बनाया जा रहा है. Ahmad Ayaz, you're running away from facts, not from Islamophobia.
It is definitely Islamophobia. Why? Because the issue is how to settle KPs who are out of Kashmir for last 32 years. And if at all there would have been a film on that to see that how they could be settled. Well, we could see.
That is a different issue. You first tell me specifically resettlement, just a second, resettlement of Kashmiri Hindus is one part. The other part is, how is the film Islamophobic? How is the film Islamophobic?
Muslims in bad light, particularly Kashmiri
It
Muslims.
shows terrorists in bad light. Why are you equating Kashmiri Muslims with terrorists, sir?
It's not a model for us.
It shows terrorists in bad light.
But for Muslims, it is demeaning, showing them in the bad light. All it is to hide people for political benefits. There does not seem to be anything other than that.
But Javed Beg also comes from the same state as you. He is a Muslim. He has no problem. He doesn't see it as a threat to him. He doesn't feel threatened by watching the film.
We would appreciate it had the file been shown to see that how best they could be resettled and to live along with.
Sir, you cannot decide what part of the story is to be told. Javed Beg, you cannot decide. You cannot decide what part is to be told. This is like saying every film that has to be made on the Holocaust should be about how the Jews survived. You shouldn't show what happened to them at Auschwitz. You should show how they survived and they made a life for themselves in New York. Why? Why will you decide what part of the story is told? Because it's uncomfortable. Javed Beg. Javed Beg.
What happened to your freedom of expression?
I come from that area.
No, what happened to your freedom of expression?
You know, this is not against Muslims, but this is against radicals. This is against extremists. This movie is actually showing what terrorism is. This movie is showing the face of terrorism. It's not against Islam or
it is not that. It is showing the Muslims in Kashmir. I don't know if they show the Muslims in Kashmir morality. How the communities have been living together. There hardly can be an example in the world. How the Kashmiris have been treating these people, being a majority community. You take 1947, when there was a problem throughout India. How did Kashmiri Pandits were treated by the locals here in Kashmir? Why that was not shown? Why?
Because there are other movies which are made on that topic.
Kashmiri Pandits.
There are other movies which are made on this topic.
I am not from...
Javed Beg, yes, finish your point.
See, I am somebody who always supported Kashmiri Pandits because I am a Kashmiri...
He could support it. Who does not support Javed? Everybody supports.
Communities in Kashmir. I will always stand by... I will always stand with those who were oppressed by jihadis, extremists and terrorists. I am a Kashmiri Muslim. So I don't see anything wrong in this movie because for me it's an eye-opener. The generation of my father, they committed whatever they committed. But it is my generation who is still suffering because there is a tag on my forehead also. I am also being...
But I am a witness to it. It may be a new generation. I am a witness to it.
This movie is an...
Kashmiri Muslims have also equally suffered.
This movie is an open questioner for those... Everybody suffered, but Kashmiri Pandits were driven out of their homes. We also suffer.
No, I'm a witness
lost
to
my
it.
relatives.
No, I'm a witness to it. You are not putting the right perspective. They were in minority. The situation was same for all everybody in 90s. They were in minority. They definitely were scared off and then an option tomorrow. Whereas Kashmiri Muslims did not have.
Okay, if the
Kashmiri
situation...
Muslims who have no option.
Okay.
Not all.
Javed Beg says very clearly, Vivek Srivastava, he's a Muslim, he's a Kashmiri, he wants this movie to be screened simply so that people get to see the full picture. Were there Muslims also that were killed? Of course there were. Are there films that have been made on that? Of course there are. Are there films which detail as elaborately what happened to the Kashmiri Hindus? No. So Kashmir Files does that. What is the problem?
I see. I'll tell you where he is wrong.
Nobody said when Heather was made, for example, when Heather was made, nobody said that don't screen Heather because it is Hindu phobic.
Let me speak.
Then why are you stopping Kashmir Files as Islamophobic?
अब आप बोलने दीजिए जी इसलिए क्योंकि मुसलमान माइनॉरिटी में है the present regime of the BJP and the RSS has
कश्मीर में हिंदू माइनॉरिटी में है कश्मीर में हिंदू माइनॉरिटी में है यू रियलाइज हाउ रिडिकुलस योर आर्गुमेंट इज आप माइनॉरिटी ज्यादा मारे गए हैं कश्मीर में हिंदू माइनॉरिटी में है
more Kashmiri Muslims have been killed in Kashmir.
Why don't you now suddenly your minority argument is over? Kashmir में हिंदू minorities में है. So in fact their voice should be amplified.
This film is not in totality. This film is not in totality. It is showing only the Kashmiri Muslims in a bad name. वो बिल्कुल सही है minority argument. इस फिल्म का मकसद है पूरे देश में इसको फैलाना कि मुसलमान अगर तादाद में बढ़ेंगे तो हिंदू खतरे में होगा. This is the agenda of the movie. And Shazia Ilmi is the part of this propaganda.
Shazia Ilmi,
आपका एक propaganda है that wherever Muslims are
yes,
more
I'm saying it's an open invitation. मैं विवेक श्रीवास्तव को और अयाज जी को ओपन इन्विटेशन दे रही हूँ. मैं फिल्म मेकर हूँ, मैं जामिया से मैं टॉपर रही हूँ, मैं मुझे डॉक्यूमेंट्री फिल्म मेकिंग में बहुत अच्छी तरह से जानती हूँ. मैं बनाऊंगी आपके साथ कैसे कैसे मुसलमानों को मारा गया है जो पुलिस में काम करते थे. मैं आपके साथ मिलकर बनाऊंगा कश्मीरी मुसलमानों को कैसे टेररिस्टों ने मारा है.
Help the Pandit Biradari. Make a film. And I'm telling you, Narendra Modi will throw you out of the party.
मैं आपके साथ
मिलकर
बनाऊंगी.
Narendra Modi will throw you out of the party.
हम दोनों मिलकर बनाएंगे.
बीजेपी से निकाल देंगे मैडम. आप बना के दिखाओ. आपको चैलेंज कर रहा हूं मैं. आपको निकाल देंगे हमेशा पार्टी से.
अब हिम्मत नहीं
आप बनाइए फिल्म.
अब डर के मारे भाग जाएंगे. अब डर के मारे भाग जाएंगे.
मैंने कह रहा हूं मैं नहीं कहीं भाग रहा. मैं यही खड़ा हूं. आपको निकाल देंगे पार्टी से मैडम. आप एजेंडा के खिलाफ जाएंगे आरएसएस के. आपको निकाल देंगे. हमें नहीं.
चाइना में ये एजेंडा नहीं है.
मैं बिल्कुल कश्मीरी मुसलमानों के साथ खड़ा हूँ. मैं कश्मीरी पंडितों के साथ भी खड़ा हूँ. मैं चाइना वाइना नहीं कर रहा. बात कर रहा हूँ. आप बनाइए फिल्म कश्मीरी मुस्लिम में.
नहीं,
मुझे भी उसमें इन्वॉल्व करिए.
बनेगी और बननी भी चाहिए.
मैं तो अपनी पार्टी में रहूंगा. आपको निकाल देंगे.
But that doesn't mean, by the way, let me tell you, sir, that n number of films have been made on Kashmir, including one film that even described the army as an occupation force, and it got a national award, which in itself is a debatable issue. But that being said, n number of books are written which spoke of the Muslims' point of view in Kashmir. Nobody said they are Hindu phobic. There are n number of films made about the same issue. Nobody asked that no, they should not get a censor board certificate. And similarly, all shades of story deserve to be told. Every time you cannot keep hiding behind Islamophobia. Every issue. When the hijab goes to court, Islamophobia. When a film is made, Islamophobia. Anyone asks a question, Islamophobia. Everything cannot be brushed behind Islamophobia, sir. There cannot be a blanket argument to shut down everything. Javed Beg.
See, my friend is missing a very important point. It is not BJP versus any other party. It is humanity versus sanity. You know, somebody who is sane will understand what we suffered, and the most who suffered are Kashmiri Pandits, because they were killed and they lost their homeland, motherland. Kashmiri Muslims got killed by terrorists, but nobody was driven out of Kashmir. Let me tell my friend, nobody was from Kashmiri Muslim community. Nobody was driven out of their home. Nobody was driven out of Kashmir. But Kashmiri Pandits, they lost everything. So we should, as majority community, we should have that courtesy for our Kashmiri Pandits, for our Kashmiri Pandit Bradari. From your channel, I want to tell Sharad Pawar Sahab that he has to apologize to Kashmiri Pandits and Bala Sahab Thackeray. He should apologize unconditionally for his remarks, for his insensitive statement he made on Kashmiri Pandits. And my friend, he is trying to earn some brownie points. My dear friend, we have suffered. Nobody came to help us. Now, if somebody out of his creative way, innovative way through cinema is trying to portray what we suffered, how a community lost their motherland, we should welcome this. I, as a Kashmiri Muslim, should introspect. Kashmiri Muslim Baradari should introspect. There is nothing to hate in this movie.
Absolutely.
It is not against
Watch
Kashmiri
everything
Muslims.
and then make up your own mind. And if you want to shut down one point of view which you don't like, at least don't use the excuse of Islamophobia. And this is coming from two Muslims who are sitting on the panel today. Thank you very much, Javed Beg, both gentlemen, and Shazia Almi for having joined me. News